What exactly is Oklahoma doing? They're interviewing every coach under the sun for defensive roles you haven't heard of, and I'm convinced are mostly made up, and that's just the way coaching staffs can be nowadays. All for Brent Venables to Thanos style stick his hand into the gauntlet and say, fine, I'll do it myself. John Williams, Locked On Sooners, joining me here. So, bring everyone up to speed here, John, because the coordinator situation for Oklahoma was, we're good. We got co-DC. Jim Knowles is available. Oh, that's interesting. And it looked like it was going there. He's, of course, now at Penn State, and Brent Venables makes a hire or two defensively, and now all of a sudden he's calling the defense. What's going on here?
Yeah, so when Zach Allen left for West Virginia, he's the guy that called the defense for Oklahoma in 2024 and was very successful doing it. Again, held Alabama to 3 points at home in a big win in November. When he left for West Virginia, I think the plan was going to be Brent Venables is going to just take the defense back over. He called the defense in 2023 when they were really successful. Even though Ted Roof had the defensive coordinator title, Brent Venables was the dude enacting the defense on game day. So we're just kind of going back to that. So you get Brent Venables, the guy that was considered Jim Knowles before Jim Knowles was considered Jim Knowles, the guy that won 2 national championships with Clemson, one of the hottest defensive coordinators in college football for much of the last 25 years, was rumored for a lot of jobs, was going to be entertained for a lot of jobs, and held out, took Oklahoma. So he's taken over the defense again. I think the Jim Knowles thing just kind of fell into their lap. And when Jim Knowles, the hottest defensive coordinator available right now, or even not available, the hottest defensive coordinator in college football with the number 1 scoring defense in 2024 calls you, you've got to entertain it. And so I think this was just one of those, hey, okay, Jim Knowles is calling. Let's hear what he has to say. Let's see if we can make this work. And I think they were significantly ready to make it work financially. And I don't think it was going to be strictly a financial thing. Jim Knowles got an opportunity to go to a place that I guess he's always wanted to coach, as he told his players, and as recorded by Penn State social media, he wanted to be at Penn State for a really long time. And this opportunity came to be, and there he is. Now they hire Wes Goodwin as an assistant linebackers coach and defensive analyst, the Clemson defensive coordinator who had worked under Brent Venables while back at Clemson. They hire Nate Drilling as linebackers coach. He's a guy that he's bounced around the lower levels, but is a very highly respected up-and-coming young coach. Wasn't New Mexico State calling the defense there in 2023 when New Mexico State, Diego Pavia at quarterback, beat Auburn 31-10. So this is a dude that's got some chops as a defensive coordinator, but he's coming to be your linebackers coach. Now you've got 4 guys on your defensive staff that have experience as defensive coordinators. And then you've still got your co-defensive coordinators in Jay Valai, the cornerbacks coach and associate head coach, and Todd Bates, the defensive tackles coach, that have been holding those co-defensive coordinator titles for years still on staff. So you're just adding to your staff. I mean, you lose Zach Alley, it's a loss, but you've got Brent Venables. He's a mastermind of defense.
So the reason I wanted to bring this up on today's show, John, is because it's been a whirlwind in the last week or so, however long it's been. All the days blurred together. Time's a social construct. And all this going down, he's here, he's there, it's all but done. Jim Knowles is going to he's not going to Oklahoma anymore. I think from the outside standpoint, if you hear that story, you think, oh, Oklahoma was looking to get a new defense coordinator because maybe they don't like what they have now, and now they're just going to have their head coach do it. But from a defensive staff standpoint, where is your confidence level going into Brent Venables' 4th season?
I got Brent Venables. I'm very confident. The defense has improved every single season. You lose some key pieces in Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, Ethan Downs, Dejon Terry. Key pieces on your defense that you're losing. Not going to sugarcoat it. Danny Stutzman's a huge loss. Billy Bowman, you just saw in the Senior Bowl, the dude was locking down everybody in one-on-ones. It's a loss. At the same time, you've recruited incredibly well on the defensive side of the ball, and you still got Brent Venables as one of your defensive play caller. You've got Todd Bates, who's developing a great defensive tackle group. You've got R. Mason Thomas, who had 9.5 sacks last year, coming back. It's going to be another really good defense. I'm very confident in the defensive side of the ball. The issue in 2024 was not defense for Oklahoma. It was that they had a terrible offense that couldn't hold up its own end of the bargain. And so your defense had to go out and try to pitch a shutout every single game, and they just couldn't do it because they were getting put in some really bad spots by the Oklahoma's offense, whether it was turnovers or just not being able to stay on the field and extend drives. Oklahoma's defense eventually just wore out. So I'm very confident in Oklahoma's defense. What's going to happen for Oklahoma in 2024 is, can the offense improve? Can they get to 30 points per game on average for the season? If they can do that, Oklahoma is going to be a significantly better team next year.
And I think a lot of people have that sort of expectation when you bring in the number one transfer portal quarterback.
Yep.
By a lot of different metrics, by Spencer's metrics as well. Mateer was the most highly coveted transfer portal prospect out there coming over from Washington State. You bring over his offensive coordinator as well. Do you think this will be a defensively led team, or do you expect Oklahoma to have a strong sense of balance in 2025?
Well, I think they're going to have much better balance. I think it's going to be an offense that's going to be much more capable of scoring. You're going to have a guy that's got a lot more experience than what Jackson Arnold had coming into 2024. I think also that's going to be able to protect the football a little bit better. And hopefully, and I know Oklahoma fans are tired of hearing this, and I know your fans of Locked On College Football are going to be tired of hearing about Oklahoma's injury issues, but they were vast. They were vast in 2024. And if they have any semblance of luck, they will not be nearly as banged up in 2025. And if that's the case, your offensive line is going to be better. Your wide receiver group is going to be more consistent, and your quarterback play is going to be better. So if the offense can improve even just a little bit, again, if they can get to 30 points per game, they average 24 points per game in 2024. If they can get to 30 points per game, again, I think it's a much better team. And I think it creates a lot more balance. But the expectation at Oklahoma is to have these high-flying offenses. Going back to the Mike Leach era of the early 2000s, it's air raid, it's putting up points, and then it's using a defense that's going to be able to hold teams to 24 or less. And if you can do that, you're going to win a lot of football games at Oklahoma. But last year, I mean, they could barely get to 24. I think they did not score more than maybe 27 in SEC play at all. And it was not a good football team in 2024 offensively. And the defense just couldn't carry the water. And I don't think that you should expect your defense to try and go pitch shutouts week after week after week. You've got to have offense to be able to win in today's college football.
I think in last year's SEC, that's a tough formula with the lineup of quarterbacks that they had. Yep. But I'm curious going into next year. Oklahoma does not have a cakewalk of a schedule in the SEC. Kind of sort of the opposite. It's not a Florida level, but I mean, it's you kind of look at it and go, don't love it, don't love it per se. But here's the upside for a team that's trying to lean more on defense in the SEC next year, John. How much proven quarterback production do you have in this conference in 2025 compared to 2024? It is night and day. You have got Nico Iamaleava, who, by the way, you're thinking takes a step forward if you're a Tennessee fan, but he's a returning starter. You've got former Sooner Jackson Arnold trying to unlock his full potential down at Auburn. You have Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. That is the only known proven commodity of a high-level quarterback to me, because Arch Manning and Nico, mega talents. I can see them being in New York City for the Heisman ceremony next year. I can also see calls for them to be benched by the middle of the season. Those things are equally likely to me, because that's how it is with every high-level quarterback. I mean, Bryce Underwood at Michigan, whenever he sees the field to start, yeah, he's a mega talent. He's like the highest graded quarterback ever coming out of high school. There's a legitimate shot that it doesn't work out. Some of the highest rated quarterback prospects in the history of college football have wound up being busts, not just in the NFL, but at the college level. And there are so many questions. So that's the upside I see for the Sooners is, you know, the SEC pulled back in 24 and Oklahoma wasn't able to capitalize on that. But I don't know that there's going to be this massive leap forward, at least from a quarterback standpoint.
Well, I think you're right, because you go from Jackson Dart at Ole Miss to Austin Simmons, who, again, is a talented player, but Jackson Dart is potentially going to be a top 15 pick in the NFL draft. You go from Quinn to Arch Manning, which, listen, I know a lot of people want to dump on Quinn Ewers, but he's a veteran quarterback that led them to the playoffs 2 years in a row. That's something. That veteran experience matters. And then you go from Brady Cook to Drew Pribula at Mizzou.
Bo Pribula, yes.
Sorry, Bo Pribula. Whatever. This guy who's not played a whole lot of football. He was
a backup at Penn State he's got some talent, but your point is well taken.
I mean, so listen, this is just it's a quarterback's game. I truly believe that. As much as defense wins championships, what did we see in the national championship game? We saw Will Howard just play great football and lead them to a win. We saw Riley Leonard just muster enough toughness and strength to lead them to a comeback, to make it an interesting game towards the end. So it's a quarterback's game, and the SEC is facing a lot of quarterback turnover. No Jalen Milroe, no Jackson Dart, no Quinn Ewers. And then the rest of the schedule. I mean, Nico, I like you agree he's going to take a step, but how big of a step can he take? That's going to be the biggest question for me.
And Dinko's got a pretty sizable step to take. And no Carson Beck at Georgia. I think Gunnar Stockton's talented and wasn't the reason they lost to Notre Dame. I think they lose that game even if Carson Beck plays, because Notre Dame was just better on the field in a lot of different areas. Quarterback wasn't the issue. But again, I haven't seen Gunnar Stockton start for a whole season. I just see glimpses and glimmers and all that sort of stuff. And boy, college football can't get here soon enough. We're less than 8 months away, folks. Less than 8 months. We're just over 7.5 months away from college football. How exciting is that? John Williams, Locked On Sooners. Appreciate it as always. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.